All right, let's talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide. This is a team a few short weeks ago that a lot of people were thinking was left for dead in terms of making a college football playoff push. That obviously has reversed completely with a 34-0 victory against Missouri and now a dominant, absolutely dominant performance in LSU a few short days ago. Night game. Usually that's a bad sign for the visitor. Not in this case. Kalen DeBoer and his staff got it done, and we've got more great news on that front for Alabama and what it means to them going forward. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, obviously this Alabama Crimson Tide team has found a way to turn it around after a devastating loss to Vanderbilt, ugly victory against South Carolina, disappointing defeat Tennessee. They have bounced back in a big way, and they look like one of the best teams in college football yet again. And now the smart money has once again come out and said that this is a team that is a serious contender to make a serious run. Let's pull up this report courtesy of Roll Bama Roll. Just 2 weeks ago, when we last checked in, Bama was just about even money to make the playoffs. But then Bama got some great breaks on one hand with a lot of upsets during its bye, and then manufacturing its own fortune by destroying LSU under the lights at Bryant-Denny West. I kind of like that. Right now, Texas still has the best odds to win the SEC at almost even money, plus 105, but the Crimson Tide have the second best odds at plus 420 because so many other teams need help to get there. The rest of the pack is well behind Bama to win out and take the crown. As everyone understands, winning the SEC, of course, gives you an at-large bid. And the way Alabama is playing, they may not even need to win the SEC. They have a chance to make the playoffs as a wild card, but being there as the SEC champ, frankly, that's what a lot of people expect out of the program from Tuscaloosa. And the way things are going right now, I think they have a great opportunity to get it done. Certainly the smart money thinks they got a great chance as well. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Alabama fans, in the comment section below, obviously this just dominant performance against LSU. There was a lot of people to give a big MVP award. I've got my own thoughts on something that Alabama did, which I really appreciate. But who was your MVP? We'll take the quarterback out of it because Milroe had a stupendous game. But who was your MVP outside of Milroe for this just incredible performance a few short days ago, Crimson Tide against LSU? Let us know in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest news and just everything going on with Alabama right now?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is great news for the Tide, but true Tide fans, this is not unexpected because this team, it has been rolling. They've had a couple of shaky losses here and there, but they've had some really, really impressive victories. Mainly, you look at the beatdown of Georgia, scoring 41 points in that game. They beat they beat Missouri 34-0 as well. They beat LSU 42-13. I think after the loss to Tennessee, something clicked in this team. They take the bye, they come out of the bye, they play Missouri, and the defense is on a whole nother level, and it's against some really top opponents as well. I think this is a team that coming down the stretch, I would put them as my favorites to win the SEC right now, just because Texas is the other team that's on the other side of that. And Texas is a team that also, when they've come against some tough opponents, it's been really tough for Texas. Texas loses to Georgia, a team that Alabama beat. Texas only able to score 15 points on them. Alabama scores 41. I mean, Texas had a tight game against Vanderbilt, which Alabama unfortunately lost to. But that 27-24 victory over at Vanderbilt, Texas, Vanderbilt took them to everything they could possibly handle. I think this Alabama team looks really good, specifically matching up against this Texas Longhorn team, who most likely will be their opponent in the SEC championship. I think this is something that we have to take into account because that is why I'm thinking they are my favorite to win this. This is a team set up well to take on this Texas Longhorns football team, and I really love Alabama's chances because we look at the rest of the season for them. You have Mercer, should be an easy victory for them. You've got Oklahoma. That'll be, a little bit of unknown, but you should get out of that one okay. And finally, you got the, rivalry game into the season versus Auburn, but Auburn's played some ugly football at points during this season, so that one should be a win for the Tide as well. Alabama's looking to cruise through these last three games, come out as a really tough, 10-2 team coming into the SEC championship. I really like what Alabama is putting on here, and I think that this is a team definitely is college football playoff bound, but they might even be favorites to get into the later rounds of the college football playoff if they keep this kind of play up.
One thing I noticed that Alabama finally figured out, and I don't say they finally figured out, I think they just finally said, heck with it. This is how we're going to operate offensively, is treat Jalen Milroe like a former Alabama quarterback, also named Jalen Hurts, in terms of let's have him run this zone read power run concept out of the quarterback position and not have rely so much on him running the football out of scrambles and do standard dropbacks. One of the things that really frustrated me, and I get it, I understand why, because Milroe obviously has all the talent to be a great pocket passer, and at times he can be. But when you combine limited pocket passing, play action, design run, things like that, this team is unstoppable. We saw that against LSU down the stretch, right? They have a chance to be just a dominant force. We saw how good the defense has bounced back, surrendering 13 points combined over the last 2 games, especially against a very, very good LSU offense. What they did at LSU was very impressive. And I look at this Alabama team, they are trending, to use the NFL term we hear all this time, they are trending the right way at the right time. I look at Texas and I kind of feel like, now look, I know they just beat up Florida, but Florida, let's be honest here, Florida, they're a program that's just a dumpster fire right now. I don't know what the heck's going on down in Gainesville. But if you look at Texas generally, it's been a lot of, meh, right? They got killed by Georgia. I mean, that game was just a total disaster. They eked out Vanderbilt. Then they had a bye and they crushed Florida. That's great. Who really cares? And then you look at the rest of their schedule, Arkansas, Kentucky, and at Texas A&M. We'll have to see how they play this weekend. But right now, I don't have as much a strong feeling about Texas as I do about Alabama. Alabama has to finish a job here. But if they go into this matchup that I think a lot of people are looking at right now, barring something crazy happening in the SEC championship game, you have to go Alabama, right? And I understand why people look at Texas just because they had the early preseason rankings and they're a favorite and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is Alabama has figured out who they are at the perfect time. They are a power running team with the quarterback, taking big shots when needed. Earlier on in the season, I thought they were too much relying on Williams doing spectacular freshman things. I thought the Alabama offense has finally made a really smart move. They finally understood it. They finally figured out we are going to be a power run team with Jalen Milroe leading the charge at the quarterback position. And that can work, folks. That can win you championships. We saw Michigan last year win the national championship with the power running game. We've seen Alabama make it to the national championship, have a fourth quarter lead against Clemson many years ago with Jalen Hurts running that exact same offense. There's no reason it won't work this season. I know DeBoer and his staff, they wanted to do things a little bit differently, but the reality is they finally figured it out, and credit to them. This is the way they can win. Smart move on their part, and I think the smart money, the Vegas, the odds makers are starting to realize it out as well. A lot of things are trending the right way right now for Alabama.